Okay, my talk is going to be about the different things that we are doing in order to get more trust in all these kind of ecosystems. As you know, data is the backbone and are the key point in order to have all these new systems and new LLMs and also fine-tuning things in the best way that you can have. This slides control is this, no? So this initiative is quite related to all the things that is going now in Europe. Europe have a lot of regulations. This means that data and data processing should go under a lot of things that must be assured that you have to be done in the proper way. So the idea is try to imagine what kind of things we can build upon some part of this infrastructure that is called the data spaces. Upon this, we want to build different things, and this is exactly what we want to tell about. As I mentioned, I'm quite a professor in the University, Technical University of Madrid, the Telecommunication School, Engineering, and there I have been involved in all kind of infrastructure. And the key is that we are working in several standardization groups in order that all these things that we are providing the code as open source, will also be part of the standards, and the future things can be built upon all these kind of different things. So the main idea, as I mentioned, is trust. Trust is very important. It's very hard to obtain. It's very easy to lose, and means that I want to make business with people I don't know. I want to get their data. I want to use it for whatever reason they want to make any use of this data. And this means that people have to know for what I am going to use the data. Probably we decide that have a price or could be other kind of compensation. And after this, we can try to see if once I get this data, I am not a bad guy, but I'm a good one, and I exactly fulfill the conditions under which they are sharing this data. Why is this all of this? Because we are seeing that there is a lot of open data, there is a lot of closed data, and a lot of companies do not share data because they are afraid of losing control over it. This means that a lot of companies may share data if they really trust that the one that is using this data is not going to do things that are not the one he mentioned when he buy or get an agreement in order to get this data. For this, we need a distributed governance for data. We have to know what is done with this data, especially if the data is personal data. And we need a very fine-grained access and data usage control, more of this later, to see how everything works and how everything is related to all of this. China is having something that is called trusted data matrix, that is the same idea, and probably we need to talk about the low levels protocols in order that we are able to integrate with this. They are now building the same kind of tools, and the problem will be the interoperability. So it's very important to start to talking about the protocols and how things interrelated in order that all these kinds of initiatives are all interoperable and can go on this. Once we have with the data, we should try to think what things we can put on this. We can put, the easy one is use the standard machine learning process. When you do the normal things with data that you use it to some kind of application. Usually this leads to a digital twin. We have data about a system, we generate a digital twin, we will build upon this. But perhaps we want to have a 3D visualization for this, or even some kinds of 3D environment on this. Now with LLMs, we can interact with there. There could be also some kind of agents that are moving around all these things. Right now, all this interaction is done by hand, but in the future, probably we can connect to this like we do now with the web servers. At the start, internet, I am a bit old, so I remember when the internet started, there were very few web servers, and they were very hard to connect to. You can have to do a lot of things in the computer, and now you are jumping from one to another clicking on your page, and a lot of them are joined by REST APIs, and you can make applications about this. This is the same thing. We can try to build new layers upon data, upon digital twins, and upon LLMs in order that we can try to fulfill these requirements, making new applications that go there. We need different trust models. Now, right now are quite digital, or you trust or not. But perhaps we can say that you can trust to give only some data to someone just to test it. And later, if you really see that he's behaving properly, you can do this thing. It's the same like things in life. When you establish a relationship with a new person that you don't know, and you begin to make business, at the start you go slowly, and later, if you trust each other, you go to and make more business with each one. The key here is that we are going to extend the MCP protocol, the one that has been presented, and there is another one that goes upon this, that is the agent-to-agent protocol that could need this. Right now, these concepts of trust and also the concepts about distributed governance are not in this protocol, and our proposal is right now, first, fully understand how they can work in a scenario where you need to have a trust, and things like were mentioned before, the catalogs for this point should have all these kinds of policies where you use these points, but knowing that you can do different things, and only the ones that they have these things have upon this. All this terminology comes from science fiction. As you know, there is a lot of different novels. One talks about the multiverse and all of kinds of things. Most of the models comes also from science fiction, from Philip K. Dick is the one that most of the movies and ideas come from here. Are very strange ideas, but can give us a vision of this interconnection of agents, some persons and others, LLMs, that can interoperate and make things work upon this. All this, at least in Europe, comes with a lot of acts. The acts as the laws that European countries are putting to all these kind of services. They are the cybersecurity strategy that has to see with the infrastructure, the cloud computing, and the operating systems. Also about the services we are offering. Right now, is there the GDPR, that is the one that protects personal data. But now the two more that appear is the Data Act and the Data Governance Act, and we are trying to put this law inside our systems in order that you fulfill and obligate the people that is using these things to do things according to these laws. I know that it's only European, but probably this idea is interesting because this thing of putting the policies that represent the laws means that nobody can do anything that is illegal or is not the proper thing to do with the data, and it is assured that all the systems that have this kind of agents and have this kind of policy is working with these kind of things. This strategy is the key idea for Europe in order to have these things, because we want to have these things of trust. So the GDPR wants to allow more easy flow of data with the properly protection, especially if not personal data. We can to assure the transactions that when we interchange these ideas of data and services, we are able to do all these things. This is suppose that the market will increase and there will be more companies willing to share the data and connect the system and feed the LLMs with the data, because they are knowing that the data is not being stolen, but is used exactly as they thought. So this would also allow fairness. That means that all the actors that are fulfilling these rules are playing with the same cards. Nobody is making any kind of tricks, and everything works properly. The data governance is based or somehow is connected to the data spaces, and in this case it presents different roles. That one could be the data source, that could be anything. The data intermediary ones that are who is doing the labor of being a broker, and the data user that could be business or research or on wherever. Here is very important that we keep the governance, the data all along the process. We are in a complex situation because Europe, we don't, are not doing a lot of fabric and a lot of those things. So we need really that data economy flourish and gets part of everything. So everyone should get involved in this. And for this, we need a digital sovereignty of the infrastructure, the cloud, and to be sure that everything works as this is presented. So these data spaces really wants to be assured that everyone that is doing things with the data do it in a proper way and handles in the right way. Right now, there is a lot of data spaces going on in Europe. As I mentioned, also China is going to have the trusted data matrix that is the same idea, and they are also built. Initially, they are of different thematics, but you can interoperate and have data from several data spaces in order to mix it. For example, in Spain, we have the one that is about tourists that uses a lot of these things from other data spaces in order to do different kind of applications. Underlying this, we need a cloud infrastructure that we know and we can trust. Fortunately, with the bad news about USA, you know that now the clouds that are, well, the most well-known are not trusted anymore, at least in Europe. And this means that we need to have our own infrastructure. So here the idea is that instead of having what we have now that are closed ecosystems, we interchange and we connect agents and data and do machine learning when things that are in my company or the companies that are part of the friends of mine. I will try to open in order to interconnect others. But the final idea is we have a federation where we have a lot of possible connection and possible interchanges of data and services with people that we don't know. But we have to gain some kind of trust via using the right protocols, self-sovereign identity for identity, the things we are mentioned in order to get all these kind of things working. So the final idea, anyone in the planet that fulfills some requirements. I mean, it's a company, it's legal, it's not a hacker that is inventing an identity. And once start to work with others, he's behaving according to the rules, then anyone can publish that this is a good guy. And this means that we'll start doing business with other companies and interchanging and creating new services. This will allow an ecosystem of new companies that right now are limited by the kind of data that you have available, and you can get the kind of this. The authentication is done via using self-sovereign identity, are the verifiable credentials. The verifiable credentials has been around a lot of times around there. It's initially based on blockchain, but could be implemented without blockchain if you have other cash experiments. And the key is that your data and who accesses your data and how it's used to make login in systems is controlled by you via usually a wallet. This is not like the other situation where you access to other things and you can obtain this. This is a workflow, but well, we are in short now and we go for this. In Europe, there is an ADAS2 that all the identity will go through this kind of system. Has been that any people can present identity based on this technology to all these kind of things. ADAS will be both for companies and for people. So this have a very complex workflow. We have simplified this and you see the OpenID connector for this kind of verifiable credentials. This means that we can be sure that the one we are talking with is the right one. Could be, as I say, a person or a company, but will be scenarios that will be handled machine to machine. Someone identify, offer as someone can consume data or produce data, or consume a service using this data, and you know that really are talking with people that they are. In the case that was presented before, the MCP protocol doesn't have this kind of things and means that you can be connected to anyone in internet and you don't know if the data you are using is the right one or not. We need to specify policies. This is a very complex thing, and of the several languages of doing this, we have selected the ODRL. ODRL is the Open digital rights language. It was invented more than 10 years ago to specify the rights for watching movies and listening to music. This is something very old, but the advantages of ODRL is specify very well how things could be done, and using another vocabulary that are not the one from movies and music could be used to handle and to define exactly how you can manage all these kind of things. There you can specify the data access control, all the content management, how it will be done, and how you have the compliance with the different regulations and anything extra you want to add. I only want that they use my data if it's properly aggregated. I only will use the data if it's anonymized or is used in the proper way. So this have this kind of model. This is the model NodeRL. Now in the working group, we are working in a third version, but well, this is power enough. There, what you exactly specify are the different policies, the constraints, the action, and the things that could be done with your data. We are also developing what we call ODRL for humans because this is serialized in a graph in JSON using RDF, that is the format for the web, that is not very human friendly. And you can finally say things like I mentioned, I want my data only to be used for this or that. This will be transformed in this language, and this language is the one that we are going to use for all the points that are going to fulfill and see if these policies, or whatever you specify, is the one that you are there. The problem here is that we do not have only access control, but not data usage control. Data usage control is a bit more complex. Access control is, well, more or less easy. I give you access to the data or to some part of the data via an API you try to access if you have the right access to the data. The usage control comes later. Once you have the data in your system, you are going to use for different things. I want to be sure that the things you are doing is the right one. Then I need to specify this, and I need to, deploy an agent that using this policy, check the logs for all the cloud infrastructure, and you see if the things that I said that will be done with the data is right. For example, I promise that I use the data and delete after a month. Well, you have to see in the logs that the data already has been properly deleted in the cloud infrastructure. Things like that are the first step that we're implementing. It's quite hard for the complex scenario, but we are going step by step doing little detail on this. Onto access control, in order to be flexible and access different things for different areas, we need to specify this, and we will use different languages for this. In our case, we will use this in order to define the data usage control. This means that we have to specify obligations, authorizations, and the conditions that we would want to have. As I mentioned, we try to access the thing. We have access control. Later, we have this. And late in the end, at some point, we can revoke the access if it's streaming data, or we can tell them to delete because for whatever reason you have not fulfilled the things you are doing, or you decide to change business and say other things. So the architecture is what I mentioned. We have the trust. This is related to the Gaia X standards that we are having. We will have the federation upon this. This could be more or less the Dataverse. Upon this, we have different data services that interconnects to all these things that we have there. And upon this, we build the different agents or the different applications that use the data and the services of all this kind of thing. This is the thing that we want to enable. We want to have it at a global level. And this means that you need to be compatible at the lower level and have this trust connected to all the things that we are doing and connected for this. This means that could be enabler for these kinds of metaverse where we can have even 3D versions for the digital twins or for the agents that we are mentioned. We can interact with them in a 3D world. There is now, right now, some strategy in Europe to provide the protocols needed for the interoperability for the 3D things. Is based on some standards that are called LAO Web 4, that is related to blockchain, smart contract, and these kind of things. We will need some use of formal methods in order to this. And the key is the right failure model. When you're in distributed systems, the bigger error is not to properly specify what happens when someone gets disconnected, and there are several semantics that could be used for this. Like the previous talk, we are connecting right now with the MCP, the version as it is. So we have an advanced data protocol that allows you to connect between data spaces. We have already made an extension of this protocol in order to have a MCP connector. This MCP connector right now is interconnecting with different LMs where you can do fine-tuning with the data that is in the data spaces. And you assure in all the process that the data that is being used for this fine-tuning fulfills all the rules and the things that you have specified on this. We have now an ongoing work how to interconnect these trust things inside the MCP protocol. The MCP protocol is very easy. You just say, I'm going to take this, here you have the things, and you finish. There is no idea of paying or having some kind of contract about how you interact with things, that we have already this in the spaces, and we'll put this. And we will try to extend the languages that we have in order to integrate this kind of LLMs. I think that this is key also for the trusted data matrix that is being standardized in the AAE. And we are also trying to have this protocol in the ATF, that is one that standardizes the web and the IP, in order that the protocol is proper. This is what I mentioned. We try to build things, but we try also that this is a standard, because this is just the way that you can manage to get that people interconnect to other things. He had not mentioned, but there is another protocol that have appeared, I think, a month ago or something like that from Google. This is the agent-to-agent protocol. This agent-to-agent protocol, two agents start talking with each other. Each of them declare the different capabilities that they have. And after that, they go to connection, in some cases, via the MCP protocol. So now we try to extend the model that we have to have a proper model for this. We want to have a choreography model. Usual, most of the model are orchestration model. Orchestration model, it means that you have a point that is the orchestration, the director of the orchestra, and means that one point sending things to the other. But when you see the dancers in a ballet, for example, there is not a director. They listen and watch the others that are dancing and self-organize somehow. That's why you want to go to choreography instead for orchestration. Right now, we are using all these kind of things. We are moving to a zero trust architecture. Zero trust architecture means that instead of having a firewall and all the services running inside your company, each of the services have his own protection and his own policy point decision. And we can do this the same for all of the agents that will be all over internet. This is now not yet available in this protocol, so that we want to have this. And so the agent card that now is a JSON, very simple. We want to add ODRL payload. You do not only specify the things that are the actions that you are going to perform with the data, but also you can do other things. So we want to transform this in a formal model, and we want to build this to have some kind of marketplaces for this A2 agent connector. Right now, there is no market for this because there is no way to specify and fulfill all the things that you require on this, and that's what we want. All this is done inside a project that is paid by the Spanish government. We are in the cybersecurity department because it's trying to assure all the data is working and everything is there. And we are trying to standardize this in the ATF, in the WCC, and also working with UNI and CENELEC that are European bodies for this. But as I mentioned, we think that it's very important that these things are standards that people can rely on and implement in a different way. So thank you very much. Hope you have enjoyed, and I don't know if time of question. If not,